Hey, good morning, guys. Remember, we were here about 2 weeks ago when hotel and airport workers fought for that Olympic wage, $30 an hour. They got it, and now they're rallying this morning to keep it. Turns out that the companies who employ those workers are fighting back with a petition saying, hey, now's not the time.
City council members and union leaders say these raises are still barely enough for a living wage in LA. The minimum wage for LA airport and hotel workers is right now around $20 an hour. Starting this summer, the raises kick in. By the time the Olympics arrive, workers will earn $30 an hour. That's a 56% raise over 3 years.
You know, this threatens the revenue Los Angeles urgently needs, not to mention it's standing as a world-class host for global events like the Olympics. Small businesses will be forced to shut down, workers will lose their jobs, and the economic fallout will stretch across the city. We're fighting for all of it, the city's future, the jobs that sustain our communities, and the millions of guests the tourism industry proudly serves year after year.
Tourism officials and hotel executives say the increases are going to lead to big cuts in staff, investments in new projects, and could even disrupt the Olympics.
But hotels and businesses at LAX say the increase will make a bad situation worse. They say they're still recovering from the pandemic, and tourism is down even more from the impact of the LA fires and fears about tariffs.
Just to stay in business, the owners are paying $4 million a year just to stay in business.
The 4-Point Sheraton LAX, they closed their doors on April 29th and laid off 191 people. And this is completely against where we need to head in terms of making sure that we're ready.
It's the end of an era in West Seattle.
Oh, no. This was my dream, to own my own cafe, to run it how I want to, and to really be in service to people.
More than a decade ago, Karina Lukenbach opened up her business. She served breakfast to the West Seattle community for years.
This is a real shocker, right? I mean, who would have seen this coming? I don't need these for this segment. Workers hit with job losses after LA's new $22.50 an hour wage law backfires. Try this on for size. 6% of the industry's jobs closed. Yeah. So when you jack around with minimum wage in a capitalistic market, this is what happens. Businesses are forced to increase their prices, then they get fewer clients, and that results in less revenue coming in and firing employees, the very ones that this stuff is supposed to protect. Minimum wage can always go to zero. And what we'll always hear from is pushback from the unions saying, well, this is barely a livable wage. Well, is $0 per hour a livable wage? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to knock what people are worth, but when you start regulating that as a city, you got to bump up everybody. We are literally watching in real time what happens. These cities just don't care. They simply do not care. They don't care about employee wages. They honestly don't. If they did, they'd understand the market just a scooch bit better. Maybe they'd read an Econ 101 book and not from a libtard university, right? That says, oh, the collective warmth of whatever versus the individual rugged individualism, whatever that was by Mom Donnie. Absolutely nuts. So is this a shocker? No. This is just much of the same, right? One law intended to help workers in tourist-trodden Los Angeles. Is LA tourist-trodden right now? Doesn't seem like it. But you know what? Let's go ahead and have the Olympics. Let's go ahead and have the Olympics in LA, and we'll just kind of find out what happens. Let's go ahead and, another city that's mandated minimum wages that hasn't really gone the right direction, and we saw a brief clip of that, was Seattle. Let's see what happens. Oh, closed. Huh. Yeah. So your minimum wage went to, what was that? How much was that? $0? Yeah, that's not good. An industry in the famed city is working around the wage increase. More owners plan to reduce hours within the next year, too. Oh, that's comforting. That's great. So just, basically putting people out of business. The ordinance went into effect in September of 2024. Was it 2024 or 2025? It might have been 2025. Hotel owners in the town are simply lowering its employee count I love that. Instead of saying firing, they are lowering their employee count after its hand was forced. They're making them do it. And that's literally correct, to pay workers more, according to data. In late 2024, LA City Council approved an ordinance that would incrementally increase pay for hotel and airport workers with a plan of reaching $30 an hour by mid-2028. How many businesses is that going to be put out? A ton. Hey, we can't pay. I'll figure it out. Okay. Closed. We're losing business. Closed. It's like earlier this week, I had a couple of podcasts on the oil refineries in California. Shocker, right? You've got PBF Energy and you've got Chevron. Chevron where you pump your gas. They have 4 refineries out of the 7 that are still remaining. And they're basically saying, hey, you're mandating such here in oil refinery land that we're not making a profit, and moving forward, this isn't going to work. What do you think they're threatening to do? We're going to close down our refineries. And that means those workers their wage goes to zero. The ordinance covered around 150 hotels with 40,000 rooms. The $22.50 minimum wage increase was followed by a 6% job loss, the outlet said. Yeah, that's not weird or anything, is it? No, that is literally what happens when you jack around minimum wage. When you jack around and mandate expenses businesses are going to have to pay without the free market saying, hey, I'm willing to pay you this. You're willing to accept working for me for that amount? Let's do this. Instead of that, you've got, you guys got to pay, and businesses saying, no, we don't. They're fired. We close that down, close that down, close that down. That's what you're seeing. And a 6% job loss. That is not small. That's huge. And knowing that we're not even in halfway through 2026 yet. We got a bunch more of this to come because we got to get to that $30 by 2028, right? Got to get those workers' salaries up. Well, yeah, unless they get fired first. Survey done by the Hospitality Education and Research Organization using 92 hotel owners found that job losses happened after the ordinance went into effect in September. Over half of the respondents, 62%, said that they still hope to reduce hours this year. So they know that they are facing an uphill battle, that their expenses are outstripping income. They got to do something. They still hope to reduce hours. We're going to cut hours down. We're going to cut hours of operation and cut hours of employees. 6% loss resulted in about 650 position eliminations or expected ones. The most expensive increase actually takes place in July. So looking at what we're already seeing in impacts, you could be seeing a bunch more. And that would make sense. That would just absolutely make sense from the standpoint of this is the direction that heads. Businesses can't be dictated what to do. And if they are, and the economics don't work, then they close down. They can only not make money, especially if they're a publicly traded company. They can only not make money for so long. And then you get a situation like all the ridiculous grocery stores where the local residents are just absolutely pickpocketing them to death. And, various other safety issues are always brought up. Like, having prostitutes work the restroom. That kind of thing. Or homeless whack jobs running through the store with a machete, chasing said patrons of grocery store. That kind of thing happening time after time after time after time. And then when that store doesn't bring in enough revenue and it's got a safety liability issue, they close down. And then what does the community do? We're being discriminated against. We've got a food desert. Well, you didn't enforce the law, and actions have consequences. So how's that working out for you? I mean, I just find it astounding that basic life principles, I was going to say business principles, but it's not even necessarily business principles. It's just basic life principles aren't being adhered. And then, oh, we've got a food desert. I don't get it. Now I'm going to have to go get my groceries from 10 miles away. Well, that is what happens when the elected officials you vote into office don't uphold the law, and you got a bunch of criminals running around just stealing stuff willy-nilly. And then corporate says, yeah, can't take the exposure, can't take the loss. We're done. You're all fired. We're moving on. But hey, consumers, visit us at our other stores that aren't shoplifted quite so much. And don't forget, online.com, whatever that might be, right? Take a look at one more story on this. LA hotels warn of job cuts after $30 wage rule. LA hotel owners say the city's new hotel worker law wage is already reshaping their bottom lines and not in a way that they like. A new survey commissioned by the Hotel Association of LA points to job cuts, reduced hours, possible closures of on-site restaurants and gift shops at major properties. You can't do it. You don't have it in the budget to pay people. They got to go with the bare minimum of what they can get by with, still keep their hotels open. And this is what that looks like. If you have a component of that business that isn't making a ton of money, like the gift shop, closed, right? Got to run on bare minimum. This is kind of an outlook moving forward. What comes next for LA's hotel scene? Hotels say they will be watching the ordinance next scheduled increases, including the bump slated for July 2026, and will adjust staffing, pricing, and capital plans as needed. Let's look at that for a second. Okay, staffing. All right. Going up, going to have to cut some more. There's just no way around that, right? Pricing. Are they going to have to increase pricing? They've got increased costs. Why wouldn't they? And capital plans as needed. Meaning, what money are they going to invest? Are they going to build more hotels in Los Angeles? No. Are they going to remodel, renovate ones that need it? No, because they're already losing money. And they're just buying time by making these changes to see if eventually things will pan out. They'll start to get more customers coming through. And the odds of that, well, let's wait and see. We'll see, because we'll have the Olympics and we'll be able to tell. Industry trade groups are pressing for changes while unions defend the living wage floor as a long-term stabilizer for hospitality workers. The issue I have with the living wage floor as a long-term stabilizer for hospitality workers is when said hospitality workers get fired, where does that leave them? When that minimum wage goes from $30 an hour to $0. Does that work? No, of course it doesn't. But let's not worry about that. Even though we've already got an indication, 6% of the jobs in this industry have already just gone away, leaving city leaders to weigh competing claims as tourism recovers ahead of major events. One developer publicly killed a planned hotel expansion after the council vote. He knew he was already on thin ice. He was already barely making it. And he's like, do I want to spend the money, the long haul investment of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly in the millions, to expand a hotel? Why would he do that? If things are going in the wrong direction, he can already see writing on the wall as far as one of the components of his business, which is an expense, continually going up without any correlated revenue coming in to offset that. Only a few things they can do: fire people, increase the cost of goods, hotel rooms go up. I mean, they can close non-performing hotels, entire hotels, and that'll happen. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. It's basic stuff when the market gets monkeyed with because officials and union leaders say, our employees have to have the ability to make a living wage. Yeah, but when they're on unemployment, how does that work? Well, yeah, that's the part for me, and that's why I do a lot of these podcasts, is because actions have consequences in the business world. And so many of today's leadership don't get that. They just don't see, or they don't want to. Maybe it's they don't want to. They just don't care. Just, workers of the world unite. This could be the greatest thing ever. We're going to raise your, minimum wage to $800 an hour, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, it's got to give people a living wage. Yeah. The whole industry just shuts down. We're not talking about shutting down numbers. We're talking 6%, which is significant and is a real indicator. Again, actions have consequences. Well, how many people got fired? About 6%. Oh, that's not good. And we're not even there yet. We're 2 years away from the Olympics happening, right? We've got a lot of room to go as far as additional companies closing down, shutting up their doors, and just basically saying, we're out, we're done. And it's because it comes down to an equation that either works or doesn't. And if it doesn't, can't have a business bleeding out money forever. And that is where leadership in a city like not only LA, but Seattle, they don't get it. They don't want to get it, and they never will get it. And the only way they'll get it is if the entire industry is decimated. And it looks like that's kind of what they're working on. Let's just go ahead and hammer the industry. Workers of the world unite. Hooray! Hooray! All right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.